Hello there everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Joesephyr and Cecil is my favourite Final Fantasy protagonist despite the fact that I've never actually played the game that he comes from. Today's video on Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia is going to be another Should You Pull video on Ultimecia's LD banner along with the event that comes with it, which is going to be Ultimecia's Lost Chapter. We see Ultimecia get her LD and we also see the realisation of Paine's EX Plus weapon and seeing what comes out of all of that. So if that's all stuff that you guys are interested in, then stay tuned and keep on watching. As always guys, don't forget to check out all of the social media links in the description box below, including Twitter, Twitch, Discord and Patreon. Twitch this week is actually extremely special, as yesterday while I was streaming Final Fantasy XIV going through the 5.3 storyline, which was amazing by the way, I finally got the email notification, whatever you want to call it. They invited me to the Twitch partner program, which is an incredible feat for me and it's something that I've been working really hard towards during quarantine. So when we got quarantine, I wanted to do something with that time and I wanted to really work very hard on something, and it's finally paying off. So for any of you that have come along to see me on Twitch, to come and lurk, to come and just hang out, interact, anything, then thank you all very, very much. It's something that's really, really special to me. So I just want to say a massive thank you. Tomorrow I'll actually be doing a celebratory stream where I'll be clearing D14 for Opera Omnia. I'll be doing the Chaos Challenge for Shantotto's thing because I never got to do it when it came out. I didn't get the time. But also I just kind of want to have a little celebration with all of you guys. So if you guys want to come along for that, it would be great to see you. On Patreon, obviously I shout out one of my patrons at random, who I'm also extremely thankful for their support as well. And today that person is going to be Quachacho, who is also somebody that comes and chats to me on stream as well. So thank you very much for your support. Don't forget to check out all of the different websites associated with Opera Omnia, as you can see through all these pictures that are around me just now. And of course, don't forget to check out all of the other content creators out there besides myself. So first things first, let's take a quick look at the event itself. What are we expecting from Ultimecia's Lost Chapter and the chaos that's associated with it? So you're going to spend the first wave up against the SAM-08Gs, which are enemies from Final Fantasy VIII, if you are sort of keen-eyed and know where these guys come from, who like to inflict paralysis, they like to do loads of just all-area attacks, they like to put delay in their kit, but ultimately they're not too bad as long as you kind of come prepared for the second wave, which, if you remember Ultimecia's event the first time around, comes with some really nasty enemies that are spin-offs of the Death Gaze enemies called Affects. And they're like mermaid type enemies that look, they look quite cool actually, but they're also really nasty. They like to inflict various different debuffs like Petrify, Poison, Speed Down, really just debilitating debuffs. So definitely bringing along somebody who can ward off debuffs, somebody like Aphmau or even Lena can work here. The enemies don't resist any particular damage type, so as long as you can bring the correct rolls along for this particular fight, then you'll have an easier time of it. And then they just like to also gain a ridiculous amount of bravery, as well as put up a bravery damage reduction buff, so that you're meant to bring that down as quickly as possible, ideally through gravity-based attacks like Ultimecia has, so that your intention in not allowing them to get their big AoE brave HP attack off if you don't break them in time. So bringing along characters like, as I say, Aphmau or Lena, characters that have debuff evasion will help a great deal on that front. Bringing along anyone with delay in their kits to make it so that you have a longer period of time between you being able to, or them gaining all that bravery and you breaking them, is going to help a lot. So a Miditelian, Quistis, anyone like that is going to be massively helpful. Arstiella is well worth mentioning here as well for the HP silence, because once they've gained all that bravery, if you force them to then skip their next HP attack, then it's going to give you that much more time to get the brave shaving down. Equally, you're going to have a lot of good times if you bring characters that can just deal a lot of damage in a very short space of time. Obviously, I've gone on and on and on and on about Alisaie for a long while. She actually is perfect for this particular fight. As a matter of fact, if you have both Alisaie and Ultimecia with all of her kit, obviously Ultimecia is a synergy character, so she's not listed here, but you'll be able to clear this content in such a short turn count, it's not even funny. Add Saz into that mix and it's just insane. Like, I've seen clears with Saz, Alisaie and Ultimecia that are like 25 turns, which is absolutely crazy. Other than that, you want to bring along just good support, good damage. So Trey and Charlotta I've listed here as really good options. Charlotta's actually great alongside Ultimecia and Alisaie and characters like that that like to have a lot of free turns. So, you know, just by sitting there, having that 20% extra HP damage, it makes a world of difference in terms of the speed of your clear. In terms of your summon and your friend unit, A mid-Italian is going to be brilliant for you in this particular fight, just because they're able to wipe turns out, have gravity in their kit. It's just going to help just make things that much more manageable. And then with Summon, because they don't resist anything major, at least they don't resist Earth, Brothers is probably the best shout for you here, just to make the most out of the max bravery buff. The challenge quest for this actually doesn't have any healers in it. The synergy characters for it are Paine, Shantotto, Squall, and Ultimecia, none of which can heal you. So just bear that in mind. As long as you can bring Alexander with you if you're really not that confident about the heals that you need. But the HP requirement for this is fairly tame compared to other challenge quests, so it's not quite as mandatory as you'd think. But if you're not going to bring Alexander with you, make sure that you are breaking those enemies at all times, and you'll find it'll end up being okay. So looking at the banner itself, first character I want to talk about is going to be Paine. Now Paine doesn't get a rework with this particular EX realization, she just gets the realization, and unfortunately in my opinion, Paine kinda needed one. Paine's not a bad character, just as she is. She has a framed debuff called Status Break, which is a debuff that sort of lowers all of your opponent's stats, so attack, defense, speed, initial bravery, max bravery, by a small amount. And it's nice in combination with other debuffs if you just want that extra bit on top of it. And she does have a party-wide buff that comes from her EX called Wing Arts, which increases all of your party's offensive stats, so attack, max bravery, initial bravery, things like that. When looking at the hit count and damage, however, that comes from Paine, Break Attack is the attack that grants status break, and it also increases her Dress Sphere. This is the other mechanic that she has. She has Dress Sphere, which stacks up to 5 times, and once she gets to 5 stacks of it, she gets plus versions of her Bravery attack, plus versions of her EX, things like that. So, and it also increases all her stats. So in terms of stats, she's actually she's in a pretty nice place. However, the hit counts on her attacks and the fact that they are single target HP damage leave something to be desired. Break Attack is a 3-hit Brave HP attack, which in this day and age, in my opinion at the very least, is kind of unacceptable, because we are seeing HP pluses, even her own HP plus, that does more hits, does splash damage, does AoE bravery hits, we all have something extra added to them. So to see that Paine's skill 1, is still only a 3-hit Brave HP attack that has 120% max Brave overflow, it's definitely not the best. I mean, the fact that you get Status Break out of it is nice, but I think ultimately it's a little bit lackluster. Black Sky does a lot better with its hit count. It has 9 hits on the attack, but it's still a single target HP attack, and you get a decent amount of bravery damage out of it. But in terms of AoE damage or anything like that, the bravery hits are random. So if you're fighting multiple enemies, you're going to be getting bravery attacks hitting random targets before you get a single target HP attack. And the overflow is better, but it's still not up to the standards of characters that we've had recently. When looking at the actual EX itself, the EX itself is a 6-hit bravery HP attack AoE, which is decent, and it's divided HP damage, which could be better. If you get the Dress Sphere 5, so as long as you build up the stacks of Dress Sphere by using her other skills, she's going to be able to get to this pretty quickly. This is where you get Dancing Sword Plus, which is what grants her the Wing Arts buff, so you get a party-wide aura out of that. With the realization, with a book, it becomes a 4-hit AoE Brave HP attack executed twice instead of 6 hits, so you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck out of the damage here, and it also improves the effects of Wing Arts quite a lot. Basically, Wing Arts increases your stats and decreases the enemy, so it's a really nice aura to have. So it's not a bad one. I just think that looking at a lot of what comes out of Paine's EX Plus is something I would have absolutely gagged over 2 months ago, when we're getting other EX Pluses that were similar in power creep to this. Because, I mean, like I said, it's not bad. 2 out of 3, you get all of the buffs. You get Wing Arts to begin with, Status Break to begin with, and she starts with 3 stacks of Dress Sphere to begin with, so it's only going to take 1 skill use for her to hit her max stacks, which is really good. And then 3 out of 3, it does recover a use of Break Attack, which is the skill that inflicts Status Break, but like I said, being a 3-hit Brave HP attack, still not great. And then while Wing Arts is active, she also gets a 6-hit Brave attack, and then she gets a 3-hit Brave HP attack with a bit of overflow on it as her HP attack plus. Her HP attack plus was actually a 3-hit Brave HP attack to begin with, from what I recall. I don't hate Paine. I think she's okay. I just think that she's a little bit lackluster. She's not exciting compared to a lot of characters that we've had recently. Like, the stuff she gets out of her EX Plus does increase her capability, so if you really like Paine, she's definitely going to be usable. But if you're looking to pull for somebody just because of their strength, then Paine's not the person to be going for. One thing I will say though is that her sphere is actually really good. Raising party attack by 5% and lowering enemy attack by 10%, that's a pretty big thing, but I still wouldn't go maxing out Paine just for a sphere. Moving over to Ultimecia. Ultimecia doesn't get a rework or anything either, but quite frankly, she, unlike Paine, didn't really need one, apart from the fact that her skills don't have the best damage potency, so her damage was a little bit lackluster. But she does get an LD this time around, which is Shockwave Pulsar, which is a 8-hit Brave HP attack AoE with split damage across the board, which, given that we've seen 100% AoE damage from previous sort of LDs, it's a little bit sad to see that it's split damage, but it maxes out her Maleficium levels straight away, which is one of the biggest problems that Ultimecia had when she first came out, is that she had to build up these stacks of Maleficium before she got to the plus versions of her skills, and therefore start churning out damage that much more efficiently. She also gets another framed buff called Sorceress's Interference, which gives her Brave regen and increases her Brave Overflow limit, which is, again, the Brave Overflow limit is massively helpful to Ultimecia's kit, because she'd always hit cap when she was in the position to be able to deal large amounts of damage using her Hell's Judgment, which is 100% AoE damage. So you're going to be wanting to make the most out of the fact that you can get to her EX as frequently as possible. The biggest thing with Ultimecia is getting to her EX, because her EX gives her 3 free turns, it gives her a free skill use, more often than not of Hell's Judgment, because it does AoE damage at 100%, it hits really hard, it also provides a debuff that lowers your opponent's initial bravery. It does a lot for what it is, but you only get 4 skill uses out of it, so it's not quite as usable or spammable rather than you would like it to be. And having the LD as something else that can charge the EX and something else you can do other than just using her Protean Swords attack, which realistically was just a AoE Bravery single target HP attack, or her HP pluses, and her HP plus is actually very good because it's AoE Bravery damage, single target HP, but the damage on it wasn't as high as it was but when she came out nearly a year ago, because obviously times have moved on as much as they have since then. With limit breaks, it's quite a simple limit break to be honest, but the fact that it raises her max bravery and her attack each time you limit break it makes her definitely that much stronger and puts her where she needs to be in terms of stats for this particular time. And all it really does is increase the duration of the Sorceress's Interference, and it also gives her an additional use of Shockwave Pulsar. 4 uses of Shockwave Pulsar is a noteworthy thing, 100%. If you're wanting to use Ultimecia at this point, then having access to Shockwave Pulsar that just max out those Maleficium stacks, give yourself the Sorceress's Interference, which will increase your Brave Overflow, increase your damage output, it's going to help her massively. The other thing you need to realise though when it comes to this is obviously the main sort of draw to Ultimecia is those 3 free turns that she gets from her Apocalypse EX attack, which she's going to be obviously going to use as many times as she physically can. You're going to run out of buffs more quickly, but that was a problem that she always had, so having access to the LD will fix that to some extent, but don't expect to have Sorceress's Interference up all the time if you're planning to use Ultimecia's EX as often as you can. The other thing that you want to realise with Ultimecia is she still has the ability to kind of ward off turns for ages. Because her EX takes 3 skill charges to max out, a lot of people would kind of save her skills up for as long a period of time as you could, then you would use the EX, get a large amount of damage, then you would use the free skill on Hell's Judgment, 100% AoE, big damage. Then you would use it again and use it as an actual skill use, 100% AoE, big damage again, and then use Protean Swords, or now Shockwave Pulsar, to then get that full charge back again, so that when her turn next comes around, and by the time the enemies have been broken again, or anything like that, or they're just not fast enough to keep up, you just do it all over again, and it kind of gives you this massive string of free turn attacks that just wrecks the opponent. With the LD, Ultimecia functions very much the same as she did before, but she's more efficient at it, and she does more damage, which is realistically what she needed to do, because mechanically Ultimecia is extremely powerful. Bear in mind that Ultimecia doesn't have her burst in this particular banner, but she is going to get one later on. So there are a lot of people who are going to pull for her LD now to save themselves having to later, because when she arrives with her burst, there are a lot of strong characters with their LDs that come out alongside her, like Penelo and Hope, characters like that. So getting the LD now will save you having to get it later. But Ultimecia, by and large, is not quite the 100% absolute must-have character that she was when she first came out. She's still really good, but you can wait for her to come back around again if you want to use her at her full potential. Lastly, with regards to artifacts, both Paine and Ultimecia have great C50s that they can use for their artifacts. So Gullwing Warrior increases all of her offensive stats and her defense by 5% while she has Joesephyr active, which is all the time. And then past that, you're going to want to make sure she's hitting as hard as possible, because Max Bravery is not going to be useful to her because her hit count just doesn't quite equate to how much damage she needs to be dealing. Ultimecia, exactly the same. When Maleficium is active, which is going to be all the time realistically, big quick note, don't let Maleficium run out so that you end up having to either use Shockwave Pulsar or build those stacks up again. I've used Ultimecia a lot, and believe me, I have fallen prey to that many, many times. Don't let yourself be one of those people. And then attack 108, make sure that you take advantage of all those free turns as best you can. So now we come to the big question of the banner. Should you pull on Ultimecia LD or anything that comes along with her? Now, I actually think that this is one of the easier banners to skip at this particular point in time, given that in 3 or 4 weeks' time we're going to have an absolute gauntlet of banners that are going to scream for our resources, and Ultimecia's LD will come back with her burst. I think the main reason to pull on this banner is if you wanted to save yourself from having to get Ultimecia's LD when her burst does arrive. As I said before, there are other characters that come out with their LD that are also very strong alongside Ultimecia's burst, like Hope, like Penelo, that may be screaming for your resources more. So if you're wanting to try and save resources then you could save yourself the trouble by having to pull for it now instead. If you had Shantotto's LD but you haven't picked up the burst, or you're in that rare situation where you have Squall's LD or his burst or anything like that, but you don't have his EX, then you could pick it up here. If you wanted to pull for Ultimecia's LD, then you could consider those to be a great consolation prize for you. Although the reasons that I would advise against pulling on this banner is that I don't feel that Ultimecia is as necessary for a lot of content as she was when she first came out. You might struggle with chaos challenges like this one and maybe Desh's one if you don't have her, or if you don't plan to pull hard on Desh instead. But if you're happy to wait to pull Ultimecia's LD later on and wait until the burst comes about and try and get her full kit all at once then you could wait for it. And I don't personally believe that Paine is as good a consolation prize as some of the other EXs that we've had previously. So Paine is no Alisaie, if you ask me. Like, Alisaie provides a lot more in terms of damage output, in terms of like the Imperil. She's just a lot more fun to play with than Paine. Like, the 3-hit Brave HP attack on skill 1, I know that there are other things that come along with it, but I personally find it extremely disappointing, and I'm sad that she didn't get a rework that transforms her like many other characters, Fujin, Raijin, Alisaie. There's loads of characters that get this full transformation, and Paine just didn't get that treatment, which makes me sad as somebody who actually really likes Paine. If you already have Squall's full kit from a couple of weeks ago, like you've got his EX, you've got his LD, you've got his burst, you've got a synergy character up and raring to go for the Chaos Challenge. If you've got Shantotto, if you've got anything else that comes along with this banner, then you're pretty set to go. I think that I may personally throw a few tickets at it because I would love to be able to save myself from having to pull for Ultimecia's LD later, and I actually really love Ultimecia as a character, and I think that she is extremely powerful. Like, pulling herself back into the current sort of meta or current era or whatever you want to call it, she's going to be able to perform well for you, and she's going to perform well for the next couple of months. But there are a lot of powerful characters on the horizon, so she will end up getting kind of swept up in all of these like powerhouses quite quickly, because in a few weeks' time we're just going to get powerhouse after powerhouse after powerhouse. So you don't have to pull for Ultimecia's LD now if you don't want to, but it's a great thing to have if you do. So that's going to be it for today's video. In future, I'm actually going to be working on trying to make my videos a little shorter, because I've been getting a lot of feedback recently about the length of my videos and about that maybe some of them are a bit too long. For example, like with my Alisaie video, I was very, very excited to make the video, so I probably did make it a little bit longer than I should have done. And obviously with some of my schedule pull videos, sometimes I do go on a little bit longer than I mean to. And I've also been wanting to spice things up a little bit, so you'll notice at the beginning of this video I stated a random fact about myself, and I thought that it would be quite fun to continue to do that at the start of each video, just to kind of make each video a little bit different and get to like give you guys a little bit of an insight into who I am as a person. So let me know in the comments below what you think of that. Let me know in the comments below whether you plan to pull for Ultimecia's LD, if you do, if you don't, and why that may be the case. And of course, don't forget to come and check me out on Twitch tomorrow morning, or British morning at least, if you want to come and celebrate the fact that we hit Twitch Partner this week along with me. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, click that bell for notifications, and click that thumbs up for the like on the video, because it all makes a huge difference in the end to us content creators, and that's going to be it from me. So take care everyone, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye!